Okay, our next guest is Alex Johnston from Apps Perhaps, who has created the most beautiful lickable TV guide that you'll ever see, and also proving that iPhone developers tend to be a lot better looking than most other developers. So we'll bring him out now.
Well, that was quite an introduction. Hopefully I can live up to it. Hi everyone, my name is Alex Johnston. I'm the designer from Apps Perhaps. And we're a two-man team. It's myself and Jeff Tanang, who's in the audience today. He's the developer. And together we created OzTV, which is a TV guide for iPhone. We recently released an iPad version as well, but I'm mainly going to talk today, I think, about that kind of first release, that iPhone app. They're both a $2.99 paid download in the App Store, and they're both all about the guide, all about showing you what's on now and coming up later. On iPhone, you can do this using a flow view, which is a very simplified TV guide, where you can just swipe horizontally through all the different channels and then swipe up and down through all the different shows that are on. And you can also use a grid view, which is a kind of overview of the whole time slot. That's what we actually put into our iPad app. But really with both, the philosophy is the same. It's all about the guide. You can search, you can customize your channels, you can turn on channel numbers, you can actually set reminders for shows and search for more info, but nothing gets in the way of showing you what's on right now. We released iPhone in about September last year, and it went on to reach number 6 overall and was the number 1 lifestyle app for about 7 months. We released the iPad about a month ago, and we've had a similar level of success with that. We were immediately the number 1 lifestyle app and reached number 2 overall, just being pipped to that number 1 spot by Sid Meier's Pirates, which was Game of the Week. So you can't be kind of too unhappy about that, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. So today I'd like to actually share with you some of our story and some of the key factors that we think played a large part in the success of OzTV, and also some insights and thoughts we've had since we launched about a year ago. So the best place to start, sorry, too far away from the mic, I'll come closer. The best place to start, as always, is at the beginning, and it was about kind of 2 years ago. Jeff and I were working together, and we weren't working here at this lovely cafe. We were working here at Census. And it doesn't look that bad. We've added the gloominess just for dramatic effect. But we were working together at Census. We'd worked on their mobile apps for a while, and we'd been working on the iPhone apps, which are hybrid apps. And it wasn't a bad day job. We learned a lot working there. But the hybrid apps were tricky for all the wrong reasons. They were very tricky to deliver, and it really was a wrapper with a website kind of coming through. And Jeff and I started talking, and really, we said, let's make an app. Let's make something that's completely native and show what we really are capable of when we can make a native app. And let's make something that will really push us and we can be proud of. But the problem was, we didn't know what that actually was at that time. We had a lot of different ideas, and we started bouncing around all of these kind of different ideas. And eventually, we noticed there was a theme. A couple of them revolved around TV. And we thought, well, we can maybe try and make a TV guide and then explore kind of some of these ideas that we've got. And we looked at what was already out in market and thought, well, maybe there is an opportunity here. The existing apps were slow and clunky. So we thought, that's it. Let's make that TV guide. We quickly realized it's quite a difficult market to enter because data isn't free, and we were going to actually have to kind of do some business to make this happen. And this is probably the first pivotal moment for OzTV. We could have just stopped right there and gone, that's all too hard, we just want to make a good app. But we didn't. We persisted. We, so to speak, put on our business suits and kind of started talking with different suppliers to see if there was a way we could make this work. And I think if we were to make another app, make another product again, we'd kind of keep that in mind. We'd really think about what else we can bring to the table. Beyond just our design and development skills, is there something else? Can we push ourselves? Can we do something to bring new content? Because it's getting harder and harder to stand out and just do things better in the App Store. For us, in that first release, it really was managing to negotiate an agreement with a supplier, which happened to be eBroadcast, which allowed us to enter the market with minimum financial risk. Because really, we weren't sure if there was a market. There were already existing TV guides, but we'd never been in the paid market before. We'd released free apps through Census, so we kind of knew what those downloads were like, but we had no idea what we'd be achieving if we made a successful paid app. So with that all kind of going along well, we started to actually think about what kind of app we wanted to create beyond just a TV guide, and we started to do a bit of actual research. And the first point of call there was to really look at the TV market, to look at people that were watching TV, what shows they were watching, using the ratings, also just talking with people that we knew that watched a fair bit of TV. And we quickly found that obviously most of the TVs in the prime time, people are tuning in of an evening, and when they check the guide during the day, they're looking for that same information, like what's going to be on tonight over those hours between 7 o'clock and 10:30. So, we started looking at that, and we also started looking at the guides they were using, the online guides that provided a kind of grid-based view, and the Sunday newspapers, which provided a more kind of columnized approach, and just looked at just various ways people were engaging with TV content. We also learned and started to understand that data, and that was kind of critical because we'd never done a TV guide before, and we soon found out we were going to have to deal with shows that ran for like 5 minutes through to shows that would run for a whole kind of day, and that was going to be very hard to kind of get our heads around and make sure that we were displaying that in the most efficient manner, really. We also thought about the iPhone, and this is something we knew a fair bit about. We were iPhone users, and we knew it was really not just about the utility, not just providing that content, but also about the experience and how you provide that content. We also wanted to really use the iPhone device, use the gestures, use that screen, and any other functionality that we could. But we knew on top of this, we had to focus. Eventually the slide will work. We really had to focus. We would rather have a very small and succinct app that had a clear purpose and try various approaches to try to make that the best experience we could than to add a lot of features and have a very bloated app that would take a lot longer to make as well. So we started sketching and prototyping various different ideas, and we started with a grid view, which is kind of shown here. It was the kind of guides that were online that were using this grid view, and we thought, that'd be great, let's try and build that. But our first prototypes were slow and clunky and really weren't going to make us stand out from that competition. So we abandoned it, and we just started looking at other ideas and other formats that we could use. And we kind of designed a flow view that allowed you to kind of just swipe through all the different channels. And it was really targeting that kind of casual use of what's on now and coming up later. And we really liked it because it was a bit fun, it was a bit different to what was in the market. It really simplified the guide experience and allowed us to have some really visual elements like a textured background. And so we started to prototype it, and basically we started to build it. So over the course of about 6 months, we still had our day jobs. We started to iterate on design and different prototypes. And what you're seeing on screen here aren't obviously just prototypes, but they're actually the designs that were being kind of iterated on concurrently with that prototype. And both of them were kind of influencing each other, but we worked our evenings, we worked weekends, we worked as long and hard as we could over the next 6 months to make it the best app we could. And about kind of 2 months before we actually released, we started showing it to a few people, and they said, "Oh, this is pretty good already. You should just get it out there, just release it." But in some ways they were right, but we really wanted to make sure this was a focused and very polished app. We really wanted to stand out, and we didn't want to release until it was relatively bug-free. So we dropped some features to kind of speed things up, features that weren't progressing as fast as other things, and were kind of reducing the overall quality of our app. And we continue to work on it and get rid of all the bugs and really optimize for the different devices. iPhone 4 came out just a couple of weeks before we were initially going to launch, and we decided, given that we were trying to be so kind of succinct and visual, that we should really optimize for that Retina display. And so I had to recut all the graphics. We were basically done, and then I had to recut all the graphics because I'd done them all in a standard definition, and now this high resolution device had come out and everything had to be kind of done. But it was really worth it. It was important to us. We really wanted this to be a statement of what we were capable of. We also optimized for all the other devices and really just tried to focus on high production values. And then as we approached launch, we also started to think about the marketplace. We wanted to have quite a kind of smooth launch, and so we wanted to consider quite a few different angles. And within the marketplace, your app is really represented by three things. Well, that was our kind of philosophy. It's all about your name, your description, and your icon. So with the name, we'd been using the name OzTV. It was a good name. We didn't actually expect that we'd actually be able to use it. But we checked, and it wasn't in use. It wasn't trademarked. So we kind of bookmarked it in the App Store as the name for our app. At the same time, we also did that in Twitter and in Facebook and made sure that we could use those across social media. It was perfect because it was catchy, it was memorable, and indicative of what our app did. And it displays well on screen. Now, the only trick that we kind of missed, I guess, in a way, in that first release was we just called it OzTV. And what we were thinking about here was a marketplace. And it really is about being as discoverable as possible. And not including any words like TV Guide in our name meant that we weren't that discoverable in that search tab where people just type in words like TV Guide. And I'd be thinking about that if you were making an app. Make sure you think about what people will type in to find your app. We later on corrected that. It wasn't a big deal. You can have a different name in the App Store to the name that's actually on your app when people download it to the home screen. But initially it would have been better, I guess, to have included that. So we also looked at our description, and we kind of approached this quite simply. We looked at other apps that were in the market that were selling well and we thought had compelling descriptions. We tried to sum up what our app did in those first couple of lines, and we used that sale technique where you just kind of say it's on a launch price or a sale price, which it happened to be at the same price for about a year. So we never said it was on sale, we just said it was a launch price. And then we made sure we avoided any kind of long, rambly paragraphs, which is kind of hard for me. And we kind of just listed our features in kind of succinct dot points. On top of that, as soon as we started getting kind of press quotes coming through and awards and mentions, we started including those as well because we felt like it was important that people knew that other people liked our app beyond just the user reviews and ratings in the App Store. This was all about just trying to position ourselves the best we could within the marketplace that our app was going to be found. So we just worked for 6 months. We had an app that was pretty good and quite polished. We spent a bit of extra time on it to make sure it was really polished and bug-free. We thought about the name and the description. We'd chosen our screenshots as well very wisely. But there was also one more thing. There was the icon. This was something that we really wanted to invest in. And about 2 months before launch, I started working on the icon. And we wanted something that was going to be reflective of the function of our app. So it looks kind of like a TV, and it's got Australia in it. We wanted something that reflected, obviously, the name of the app as well, and also the look of the app, look and feel. So as we started bringing in that wood grain, we started bringing that into the icon as well, and that's kind of silver card floating over the top of the wood grain. And overall, it was about 2 months' work. As I was kind of finishing up on the app, that I started working kind of on the icon. And once again, it's not really in my nature to be doing icon kind of design, but really pushing ourselves and learning new things when we make a new app. Yet there was still more work to be done. On top of this, we'd made the app, we'd made the icon, we'd settled everything for the App Store. But we had to get back to our computers and do more because we realized it wasn't just enough to think about the App Store. We also had to think about making a promotional website so we could be found by Google and through SEO, setting up those Twitter and Facebook accounts that we'd registered and setting up our email, and also writing a press release and starting to plan our actual launch. We want to do everything we could to make it a smooth launch, and we planned to launch on a Thursday, which was giving us about a week to spread the word and really get noticed. Our philosophy, or our strategy, I guess, here was that we wanted to achieve as many sales as we could in that first week to get featured by Apple the very next week and get hopefully promoted in New and Noteworthy. So we spammed out on our social networks. We told everybody we could, I think until they were very sick of us and probably unfriended us. But we kept on going. We made sure that everybody knew that our app was out. We reached #1 in lifestyle in the first few days, and we were excited. That was great. We had no idea what that would mean in terms of real sales. So we were slightly disappointed when there's a bit of a delay when you get the reports. But a couple of days later, we got our report, and it was about 66 sales. We thought we were rich, but we weren't. So we waited kind of in anticipation that next Friday morning to see would we get featured by Apple. Had we done enough? We reached about the top 50 just off our own kind of social networks and a few banner ads on the eBroadcast website. So we were, I guess, confident that we should be featured somewhere by Apple. So that morning we rushed quickly to our iPhones. Now we don't live together, by the way. I'll just make that clear. Jeff and I, we live separately. That would just be weird. But the good news was it had worked. We got featured by Apple, and there we are in that kind of almost the first spot within New and Noteworthy, not just on the iPhone itself, but also on iTunes. So we were pretty happy. That was great. We didn't know what that meant, but suddenly we checked our downloads, and when we had our peak sale downloads on that very day. And we've since done the same thing with iPad. And that promotion by Apple, that New and Noteworthy spot, has always been our biggest number of downloads on that day. And any kind of promotion by Apple within the App Store has always significantly bolstered our sales. So the strategy had paid off and it had worked. But we were exhausted. We'd worked long and hard on this over 6 to 7 months now. And it slowly began to dawn on us that we were going to actually have to support this app. You know, the sprint to the end of development was just the start, and there was actually a marathon. Because really for us then, the hard work was about to begin. We'd actually created an app that had been quite successful, and we now had to support it. And part of that support was with feedback. We'd included quite prominent links in the app to give us feedback, and that was really about trying to mitigate kind of bad reviews, make sure people felt like they had a way to contact us and tell us what they thought. And it allowed us to really engage with our user base, to talk with them and spread the word and get good word of mouth, which would hopefully equal more downloads. And that was great. We also then started to use that feedback to get an idea of what people really wanted and guide our development. It's people are quite vocal, and we were quickly able to gauge the main features and what people liked and didn't like about our app. And really for us, we knew that it's fine to release a good app in that first release, but a great app is only going to come over time through supports and update, through listening to your user base, through looking at your stats and really kind of evolving the app. So we did another release just 3 months later, which we were exhausted, but we knew we had to take advantage of having a successful app in the market. So we added that grid view. That was what people wanted. And now we knew that's what they wanted. Not only that, but we'd had a successful app. So we knew we could invest the time making that first prototype work. Not only that, though, we'd learnt a lot over the last 6 months, and we could actually create an experience that wasn't as rubbish as that first prototype. Since then, we've done another update, which added search functionality. And the reason for all these updates is they've continued to bolster our sales. Once we did that grid release, we have since then doubled the user base that we've had. And search, while it didn't have quite the same effect, has still increased sales over a period of months following that initial that release of that update. And that's all good, but the feedback that you get isn't always positive. People are opinionated, and it can also be very negative and critical, and that's probably something we weren't necessarily prepared for. Really just putting yourself out there and having people judge your work and kind of comment on reviews, which you frustratingly can't really respond to in the App Store. Some of the nasty emails you get, and even the well-intentioned kind of feedback that people give, it's unrelenting, and a year on, it's still a lot of it kind of coming through. But, that's just part of what happens, and I guess it really is just important for us that we got into this for the right reasons. We got into this because we just love creating apps and creating good experiences. We really didn't kind of think about money. And I guess that's very important because for us, really, if we've had a successful app, if you can term it that it really didn't come in the form of money. The reality is you're selling something you worked long and hard on for a relatively small price per unit. And we've had good sales in Australia, but if you're thinking of retiring and buying that Lamborghini, you're really going to have to achieve those kind of sales worldwide, which is kind of Angry Bird status. You'd probably be better off buying a lot of lottery tickets. There's probably more chance of making it that way. We made enough to kind of fund our iPad app and the search functionality that you saw before, but now, while we've quit our day jobs, we haven't retired by any means, and we're not living off of OzTV. Because success for us really has come in the form of opportunities. We have quit our day jobs, but we work for other people and we collaborate with other people, and we spend a little bit of time each week working on our own apps. But we've got more freedom now, and we get to choose who we work with and kind of how we work, and choose apps and projects that are interesting to us. And so if there's anyone in the audience that's kind of creating an app at the moment or thinking about creating an app, I'd just say do it for the right reasons. Do it because you want to create something you can be proud of and really show off what you can do, because you're going to have to work long and hard on it. You're going to get criticized constantly. And your sales, no matter how good they are, probably aren't going to last kind of forever. But none of that will really matter if you do it for the right reasons, because you'll learn a lot, and most importantly, you'll open a lot of doors to new opportunities. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Alex.